Hello, selectors, and welcome to, I think we're at episode 26. 26th episode of the Life First Podcast!
Yay!
Where we talk about all things Wixoss. Today, we've got a topic that's actually, I think, kind of an important one.
Yeah.
It hit me pretty hard this week.
Yeah.
But we're going to be talking about how to deal with competitive stress.
Ooh.
I think that's a difficult one that maybe needs to be talked about, even if we all don't want to talk about how sometimes the stress can build up in us.
Yeah. I think I'm excited. I think it's important that we talk about it.
I think it's important. I do. We've had some people in the past comment on our videos and talk about like, hey, you know, we deal with this type of stuff too, and it's actually very cool to hear that you guys deal with it pretty constantly. Like, it's a big thing for us.
We're so painfully human. You know how it is.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, especially since, you know, the ceremony is coming up. Again, guys, reminder, the ceremony is coming up next week, and so is the conclusion to the selector circuit. Where eventually people who win the top 8 there will pick out their favorite content creator, and we'll do a team thing afterwards.
Team.
But so yeah, the double feature of competitive Wixoss coming up this week, and you might want to deal with the stress somehow.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I wanted to, we do the comment of the week.
Yeah. What's our comment of the week?
Actually, I'm gonna say there's a lot of comments of the week, because almost every video where I've said this, people have questioned it, and I think it's actually worth saying because it's a pretty big card that we're going to be discussing. But it's Death Deck, right? We talked about how in Wixoss, there's a rule, but the long and the short of it is that with Death Deck, the piece that just came out, you can only pick both modes, right? You can pick 1 and 2. You can't pick 1 and 1. You can't pick 1, 2, and 3. You can't pick 2 and 2. You have to pick one mode, and then you have to pick the other mode, and then that's it. You're maxed out. You can't get another one if you have 30 cards in your trash.
And how are you sure about that?
2 things. One, there is a rule in Wixoss where unless it states otherwise, modal stuff is you do this or both. You know, if you can meet the requirements to do both, if it lets you do both. But it does not let you have to pick right away when you do your things first off. So there's that. And the second off, unless it says you can do this more than once, you cannot do this more than once. And unless it says you can pick the same choice more than once, you cannot pick the same choice more than once. That's it's just written into the rules, the background rules of Wixoss. But also, there's a card site that you can go to. If you go to Tommy's US page, right, the EU page or whatever it is, I don't think it's maybe
the English page.
The English page, EN, I guess is the wordage. Then you can actually check out cards, and they do a lot of rule clarifications on those cards.
It's quite helpful.
Yeah,
actually.
that's a really good one to keep bookmarked in case you guys have problems with cards. And pulling it up and be like, the card doesn't work this way, and if someone's like, nah, it definitely works this way, you can be like, I looked it up on the official website. I checked out Death Deck. It says if you have 30 cards in your trash, you can still only do 1 and 2 options. And that's it.
Will we be able to at least link the English page down below? I know it's kind of tricky to find.
Yeah, you have to, if you guys
There's a little digging you gotta
are just
do.
following my my cookie trail crumb here and not using the link, you can you gotta Google, Wixoss Tommy.
Wixoss?
Wixoss. I know I did it. Wixoss Tommy, and then you click on that and you go to the Tommy English page, and then up on the top there's a thing called card list, and if you click that, then you're there.
Okay, cool.
So you're right. It's a little bit of a journey.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a journey, but it is really nice that they put that up on there. I wish that they, advertised that a little bit more, because nothing is better than rule clarifications coming from the game makers.
Right. So
it's the law then.
Yeah,
it's unquestionable, which is nice.
I'm still finding out rules that are weird and small, and I didn't realize exist.
Oh.
Like on one of the videos I mentioned, like, well, yeah, if you can maybe refresh your trash infinite number of times, you can get effect to go off infinite number of times, right? And someone in the comments pointed out that you can only refresh your trash twice in a turn, and then it automatically ends your turn.
Oh.
And that's a rule that's just, if you look in the handbook, it's just a one-line, very small, unassuming rule that exists there.
Oh,
so I was
that's
wrong.
another interesting one to know.
Yeah.
I guess this is all to say, just it's important to stay up to date, because aren't they still like updating like certain rules in the rule book or whatever? So it's important to always like double check that stuff, especially since we've had, the latest set come out with Vertex Diva, which that's a huge release. Like, we're getting so many new like rigs, and there's a lot new pieces, and
souls.
There's a ton of there's souls, and there's a new spell, and it might be worth, if you haven't looked at it in a while, to just go back and check it.
Yeah, you print out the rules as they get updated, so that way at any point in time if there's a confusion, we can be like, all right, we're gonna check the rules here. Like,
I'm very old school. Like, I print it out on like paper, and when I read it, I like highlight it. It's very
and I pulled up the new ones because they updated it for the souls, by the way. And I checked it out, and there's some weird rulings on souls that you wouldn't expect. Like, for example, a Signy can only have 2 souls. Period.
Oh,
so you could attach more than one soul to a
I didn't know
Signy.
you could attach more than one soul.
Yeah, turns out. And you can only attach 2.
It's being possessed.
You can't attach 3. It's just strange ruling.
Yeah,
it's just
a weird
limitation.
exists,
But yeah, that's it. There was the comment of the week is across multiple videos there was confusion on Death Deck, so we thought we'd pop out a message.
Little, yeah.
And
so do we want to get into the topic now at hand?
Yeah, I think it's probably a great idea to get into the topic.
All right, so let's talk about competitive stress, or just competitive game hobby balance.
Yeah.
How do you want to start off?
Well, so I think you and I have 2 different. It's strange, right? Everyone's stress is unique to them, and I think you and I have 2 different stressors when it comes to competitive stress.
Yeah.
I actually was really, really competitive stressed whenever I played Magic back in the day, because I really wanted to perform well, and I almost took it as a mark against myself if I didn't perform well, right? And there was that pride thing that was going in there. But coming to Wixoss, I was able to liberate myself from that, mostly through you, because I was able to play a game with my wife that I enjoyed. So I was able to take it less seriously, because at the end of the day, I still had someone to talk with and joke around with, even if I didn't do well. So it's this freeing sensation for me, because I didn't take Wixoss less seriously. I take Wixoss just as seriously as I took Magic or my other card games that I used to do. But I had a support system in place with my friends that I've made in Wixoss, as well as with Tiffany, that and our locals, because our locals are awesome.
Yeah, we got some pretty rad locals.
Yeah, the community is amazing in this game. And because I had the support system that I could reach out to, I never felt bad when I lost. Like, one of the cool things is in our locals, I actually talked to one of our friends yesterday when we were testing for this new set coming out, or came out. I said, I'm actually really glad that the promo Arkwin, we have 3 different locals that we basically frequent. The promo Arkwin went to a different person who got first place each time.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was like, old me might have been like, I wish I got them all, because I wanted to be in first place in all of them.
Yeah, but we play with everybody really regularly. We talk to them really regularly, and it's just like I think I mentioned this in an earlier podcast, that really helps to take a little bit of the pressure off.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have this unfamiliarity that feels unsafe.
Right.
In kind of a psychology way,
right. And
you're with your tribe, so it's easier to be happy in other people's successes.
And I think old Andrew would have been angry that he didn't play to his tops, got constantly first place, and was able to get all of them. And those were his trophies. I think new Andrew is just happy that my community is doing well. And that helps take some of the load off, because it's no longer I'm doing well it's we are all doing well.
Yeah.
And I love that, right?
Yeah, it's very important language.
But this week in particular, leading up to this next set that's coming out, the new ceremony, I actually, I'm going to call it right here, right now, I'm trying to get first place. And I have not actively tried to get top score in almost anything because I'm usually too scared. Like the truth is, when I put that kind of pressure on myself, I freak out.
Yeah.
And it leads to performance anxiety during tournaments and stuff. And when I am a little bit more laid back, I do better because I have less stress on me. But there's also a little bit of a nagging background thing for me where I sort of set myself up for a little bit of failure by saying like, yeah, but if I don't win, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I really want to win. Like this is a new thing for me. I have a drive that I've never had before where I don't want to be above average. I want to be the best. And
but that also comes with some added pressure,
right?
Which is what I mean. It's self. What is it called when you do something to yourself? It's self-inflicted pressure.
You're right. Like I am probably going to be on the selector circuit Discord this entire week and just sitting in a table once I finish work and just having open games for anyone who wants to play against me because I just want more practice.
So but be on the lookout, those who are on the selector circuit Discord.
Yeah. So yeah, anyone can end up playing me if they want to. But I've been practicing a ton, and like I had a little bit of a lapse last week where it wasn't necessarily that Wixoss overwhelmed me. I just had house stuff that I needed to do. I had some
just like other life
finances
stuff.
Things that I had to think about. Then I had work related issues, and it just all piled on top of each other and overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
And for like a day, I was like, it sucked. It sucked for a day. And the way I fixed it personally was I took some pieces off the board.
Yeah.
I did some house stuff and got that done. And then I've been struggling trying to figure out what deck I want to play for the ceremony. And I just basically sat down.
It feels like a big decision.
It is a big decision. Just basically sat down and went, decide. This is it. You can't keep waffling.
Yeah, no more.
And so I decided, and then suddenly I felt okay again. I felt back into it. But it's difficult because right now I'm balancing me genuinely wanting to be the best player.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like in a braggadocious way. Like
it's okay to have a drive.
Right.
And you are very driven by the idea that you want to do exceptionally well.
I want to take top placement in this next ceremony. And I'm practicing a lot. You know?
Yeah.
And that's new to me, and I'm trying to figure out how I deal with that kind of pressure on myself. And I think the way that I'm a problem solver, I think the way that I'm dealing with it is by just ensuring, like putting things in place, right? By saying like, my work days from this time to this time, during that time, I do not think about Wixoss, I think about work. I get the work done. Then when I go and the work's done, I turn my computer off, I go home. I no longer am thinking about work, I'm thinking about Wixoss from this time to this time. And then on the weekends, this day is a non-Wixoss day. I have to finish work, or I have to finish home stuff.
Yeah,
errands and junk like that.
Actually, I think that's a really healthy way to look at it, and I'm sure a lot of people will relate to that. Obviously, fellow selectors, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life, but I will say that since implementing the idea of boundaries in not just your work life, but like your personal life and your hobby life and everything, establishing boundaries helps to maintain balance in your life, and a lot of stress comes from feeling overwhelmed from a lack of balance. So for those of you looking for advice on how to manage competitive stress, start setting boundaries for yourself. And say, you know what, I'm not going to practice for 6 hours a day or like overwhelm myself with all of this. I'm just going to focus on it from this time to this time, and that's it. Or like you said, like, I'm not going to let it invade this time, but I'm also not going to let something else interfere with time that I've set aside for this thing.
Right.
And I think once you really start becoming more it's really hard to do if you're not used to that. I had to get used to that idea as well. But when you become more disciplined at saying yes and saying no to things that are important to you, you'll find that you're a lot less stressed out about stuff.
Yeah, and it's a tough balance for me specifically, and this is the last time I'm going to talk about what I'm doing. But I'm trying to find a really big balance between how do I claim to want to be the best while also claiming that I'm playing a game. And I need to have fun. Because if I don't have fun, then I don't know what I have.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And when I become too results-based, like I was with Magic the Gathering, where if I wasn't going infinite in limited, and by the way, for anyone who needs to know what that is, it's basically when your win rate at draft is so high, it pays for your next events. Mm-hmm. So you go infinite. You just continuously move forward for free, basically. And when you don't go infinite, because maybe you hit some kind of struggle or the set's a little weird, I took it on myself to do that. And I should be thinking, no, I need to have fun.
Yeah, and that's the point of playing a game.
Right. So
and having a hobby is to enjoy it.
I have this vision of myself where I am I'm an awesome player, but I'm also laughing and smiling the whole time I'm playing. Mm-hmm. And if I can meet those two standards, then I'll be happy with myself. And that's what I'm trying to really
I think that those are really good goals, though, because not only is your goal to perform exceptionally well, but you've also established an emotional or mental goal with yourself, which is, I mean, that's just one more boundary that you've made with yourself is, if I stop having fun, I need to reevaluate this. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a really great way to look at it. Is just having that sort of like, okay, my goal might be to be the best, but my other goal is that I have to have fun doing it. Yeah. And if I can't reach that, then that's something I have to think about.
That was like a thing with last night. We went out with a bunch of our locals to a bar and played
for a couple hours.
Played for a couple hours just to start testing out new tech, what we want to do at the ceremony, all that type of thing. We just had this cool grind session, and it ended up being this like. It was so fun. It was one of the most fun experiences I've had playing Wixoss.
It was really nice.
There was no stakes. Mm-hmm. We were all trying things out. We were explaining where our headspace was while we were doing things. We were offering each other tips. We were like, "Hey, don't forget this trigger. That's a thing that you'll need to constantly do."
Yeah.
Like these kinds of things. Or it was great because I could watch other people play that weren't me, and while they were talking out the reasons they were making decisions that they were, I was learning still from other people.
Yeah. Or like watching games that like we haven't been able to practice together because either like their decks are totally different from ours, or like we haven't been able to practice a matchup. Right. So being able to...
I don't play Sandbaka all that often, but one person on our locals plays Sandbaka a ton.
And they know exactly who they are if they listen to this podcast.
And so when I played them, it was like I haven't played Sandbaka ever, but I know that now I'm getting a good game in because of this.
Yeah.
It
was nice. And also it's nice to be reminded that it can be just a game.
Yeah. Totally.
And like it doesn't have to be any sort of like high stakes. Like I went to my locals and paid money and there's prizes on the line. You can still be competitive without having to win a prize.
Right. And there was even someone there who's never really played Wixoss before, and was like, can you guys teach me a little bit more about the game? So we ended up taking some time, right? I think old Andrew would have been annoyed that I've got to take away time that I'm trying to perfect myself to help someone new play. Mm-hmm. But it was like great. I had a wonderful experience playing with a newbie and teaching him how to play a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it was a very good experience to do that, because it was another reminder of being like, no, this is bigger than us.
Yeah, it's bigger than just the players. Like a game is a community,
right? And it lives or dies on my local scene. So if my local scene is unhappy and I'm the best, I'm gonna be a very lonely king, like kind of thing.
I think that's actually that is an important phrase, is that it's lonely at the top. So it's always important to remember that you can't play Wixoss alone. Like it's not solitaire.
And it's taking a couple time, a little bit of time to help cultivate your local scene to be better, if they ask, mind you, if they ask for advice, can help you become a better player because you get more challenging partners later down the line.
Yeah. So this isn't to say that you're not allowed to want to be the best, or like we're not like trying to wax about like community is the most important thing, but what we're saying in terms of helping to alleviate competitive stress is that if you're feeling this like insurmountable pressure to be the best, instead of focusing on yourself, it might be worth your while, maybe even just for a little bit, to focus on the community aspect of the game.
You'd be surprised if someone...
Find a rival, like a friendly rival.
Yeah. If one of your friendly rivals, right, at your local scene ends up doing really well, and they come back to you and be like, hey man, remember that tech that you told me? It worked, and it got me a top place.
Wouldn't that make you feel so good as a player?
You're like, you know what? I was a part of this growth. And that was part of that part. You know, I know I'm not saying like, oh, you're the best, but it is good to feel like, oh, you helped bring someone there too.
Well, also, and that helps them become an even more competitive person to play against. And when you start getting into that situation, that's where you really start becoming a more high-level player, because you have built these people around you. You've built your community, your village, whatever you want to call it, and you're all trying to get better, which in terms... well, in the long run, it will make you a better player.
Yeah.
So that's another way that you can be competitive and still focus on the community. And once you have that, a lot of the pressure ends up going away. At least for, you know, your local games. It'll end up feeling more like, oh, you're coming and playing with friends. And if you get a prize, yay. And along the way, you're still learning. So that when you step into situations like the ceremony, like, yeah, it's big and it's scary, but you've been able to prepare for this in a way that in a safe environment. Yeah, so you feel a lot more confident.
Yeah. I mean, literally like 2 weeks ago, we had a couple new people try out the game, and literally everyone who's been playing the game for a while won their chibis, the extra chibis, and immediately went over to the new people and were like, here's all the chibis.
Yeah.
None of us kept
here's
the
all your
pricing.
level zeros. I mean, we have so many anyways. Like, just from like participating a lot and consistently. So, but yeah, that was fun. Cause one of them was younger. So it's always nice to kind of bring in younger players and be like, no, we promise we're nice people. So,
but competitive stress is different for all people. So, what is the type of competitive stress that you're dealing with right now? And how are you trying to help alleviate it?
Well, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, and I will give a disclaimer that, you know, this is a ongoing arc of growth for me personally.
Yeah.
So please keep in mind that what I'm about to say is a moment in time, and it might change in the future. And we're all on this journey together, okay, selectors? So like, here we go. I mean, this is something that I think I struggle with in almost everything I do, which is, it's kind of hard to explain. I don't like doing anything casually. I don't know.
It's either just on or off.
It's either on or off. Like, it's just not how, believe me, guys, I have tried to have casual interests that I don't try to put too much stock in, and it hasn't worked for me, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you know what I'm talking about. I just don't like putting in a half effort into something.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if it comes from a sense of like me wanting to be the best to prove something, or if it comes from like perfectionism or something like that. Like, if I don't do it right, then I'm doing it wrong. And I think a lot of people, just across all aspects of your life, you might be able to relate to this. I don't know what the answer is as to how to deal with this. The easy answer would be, well, just let go. Like, bro, if I knew how to do that, I would have done it by now. So I don't really know exactly what to say about that. That's like the overarching story. What's causing me stress right now for Wixoss is that, you know, we have other stuff going on in our life.
100%.
And we've mentioned, and I mentioned this extremely briefly in like our like no topic podcast that we did recently. So if you guys listen through that, you'll probably know what I'm about to say. But it is exceptionally frustrating to want to be good at something and not have the time to put into it. And then when you perform or when you're going to a competition, you don't do as well because you literally just didn't have the time or energy or resources to be able to practice. And like, I don't know if anybody else out there like follows the Olympics, but there was a year after Michael Phelps had done like exceptionally well. He was like a breakout Olympian star, whatever. He like won the most gold medals or whatever, like fantastic, right? And then like the following Olympics, which was 4 years later, he didn't put as much like time and effort into training, and guess what? He didn't do as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the time that you put into something is, you know, you reap what you sow.
Yeah, I mean, like, I literally have told you, like, with Nova, I practiced so much, I thought I could see the Matrix as I'm making the joke. I'm getting to that.
Seeing the eternal alchemy.
Right, I'm getting to that point here with this set where I'm even doing stuff like, oh, when I put out my Signies, I put one on the left lane and one on the right lane because there's just weirdness in the world where it ends up clogging the middle lane for my opponent, and then that's going to stress them out if they run Bruno or the other one, Bruno or Brutus, which are center lane Signy. And it's like, you don't know those types of things unless you play hundreds of games.
Yeah. What is that saying? Like, you have to put in 100 or like 1,000 hours of something before you become a master.
Something like that.
I honestly do think that's true. I really do. Maybe not that many hours for certain things, but like, it takes time. Like, experience comes in time. It doesn't come in a book or in a YouTube video or in a Life Burst podcast. Like, you have to put like time and energy into something to get something out of it. So as a person that wants to do that and, you know, has a lot of pride doing well in certain things, it's so frustrating when I know I can't do that. So the thing that's stressing me out about the ceremony is that I know I'm not going to perform super well. Even though I really like the deck that I'm going to be running, I feel like I will not do as well as I could have had I put in the time and energy to practice, which unfortunately, I'll just be honest, I just didn't have it. Like, I'm an adult with adult things going on outside of this hobby that I have.
Right.
And honestly, I don't know the answer to this question. Please let me know in the comment section down below, fellow selectors, if you're having this issue and you've found a good workaround for it. But the best answer I can give myself is just, for this ceremony, I'm just going to focus on playing my favorite team, which is Ancient Surprise.
Yeah.
That's all I can grasp onto right now. So that's what I'm going to focus on.
But here's the thing, you theoretically have more games under your belt with the team that you chose than the deck that I chose, because I waited a long time trying to figure out the entire metagame. Now that's great for me, and it helps me figure out certain tiny niche things that are like, oh, in this type of a game, my opponent is going to want to do this, so here's how I need to sort of counteract it. But by knowing that you were going to have less time overall and just making a decision early on as to what you're settling with, it allows you to make all of the games that you've had count. Yeah, that's true. Even though you've only done X amount per week, right, because you settled on that number way earlier, then that number is higher that count for you learning that deck.
Yeah, and I would say that I know it relatively well. It's just that, you know, I get, like, test anxiety, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
So when I'm in, like, a highly competitive situation, like the ceremonies, not so much the locals, but like the ceremonies, where there's kind of a lot more on the line, then, you know, if I don't feel confident in myself because I know that I haven't put in that time or energy, then that makes me much more stressed.
Confidence is a huge part of doing well in pretty much anything. One of the things that I have read that's pretty unique to card games is that a lot of people talk about the Japanese mentality of card games, and how, generally speaking, and I'm being a blanket statement here, so please do not take this the wrong way, but Americans generally speaking, we go into a tournament saying we're as prepped as everyone else are. We've put in the work, so everyone has a fair shot at winning.
Yeah.
Whereas the Japanese usually go into a tournament going like, I've done all the prep work ahead of time. I'm probably one of the best players in the room. All I need to do is execute the stuff I've practiced, and I will be the winner. Which is a different type of confidence.
It's a different kind of mindset, for sure. According to this article that we were reading about this.
And so it is a confidence thing where, like, if you're lacking confidence in yourself, you will perform less well. It's just because you won't have the instinct, your killer instinct turn on, basically.
Yeah.
To go for the right moves, right? You'll doubt yourself a little bit, even if it's 1%. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying at the beginning of this podcast, like I was going into games doubting myself, 2% or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the games I win out of nowhere, right? Like there are some games where I would lose the card advantage game in the Nova Mirror twice. And at no point in time did I doubt myself, and that's how I was able to come out on top regardless.
I think it would be worth for you guys, fellow selectors out there, to pay attention to how, like, the difference between you playing a game and you playing a game with confidence in mind.
Yeah.
And just see how that kind of feels. And also try and understand where that confidence is coming from. Because if your confidence, if the confidence in your game that you're playing right now fluctuates from turn to turn, it might not be fully coming from within yourself because you're finding confidence in external sources.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it might be worth practicing trying to have it come from the inside. And again, this is coming from me, so keep in mind, I'm trying to practice this too. I am not a perfect person.
Right, but one of the things that you said, because you settled on the deck that you want to play, right, is, and you helped create that deck, right? I wasn't the one who made that deck list. I mean, I refined it with you, but the basis of it came from our discussions together over lunch and trying to figure out what would be best for this.
Yeah.
And so you know that deck pretty well.
I do know that deck, actually.
And so you can have some amount of confidence where you go like, look, I haven't put in the games against Deus, I haven't put in the games against X, I haven't put in the games against whatever, you know? So I don't exactly know what they're going to do, but you know the one thing I do know my deck.
I do know how many Azathoths I have in this deck,
yep.
And I probably know where they are,
right,
whether they're in my deck or in my life cloth or hand or whatever.
Yeah. And so you will end up being like, I know what I can do, and then when your opponent, if they win, you can be like, all right, cool. None of that was in my control. But if you end up taking the win, it's something like, yeah, I was just not caught off surprise by something that the person did because I went, oh shoot, I'm gonna lose the game to that. Hold up, I have an out. It's this. I gotta dig for it, or something like that.
Right. Heavy. It's a heavy podcast.
It is a heavy podcast, but I think some people are really going to be happy that we did something.
I hope so. I hope you guys are getting something out of this, or at the very least, I hope that you feel like we see you.
Yeah.
We know that this isn't easy, and for sure, we're not like exceptional. Like, I mean, I'd like to think that we're pretty good, but I also want to remind people, like, we're not the best of the best.
No.
We're just other selectors.
I mean, I'm trying. I'm gonna try. Look, I've never actually ever said I'm gonna try to be the best.
All right.
Ever. So this is new for me.
All right.
I'm trying to put confidence that I don't normally have in the world and see what happens
with it.
But I think a lot of people are, at the end of the day, right? This is a PvP game. You're a player versus a player.
Yeah.
And it can get difficult, right? PvP games, team games are easier. Because when you're playing, like, for example, I don't know, Nazi zombies or something, where it's you and a couple friends against the world and it's against the game or something.
Yeah.
That's a different type of stress because you're just like, you're trying your best, but you're inevitably playing against something that isn't real, so you guys are just working on your teamwork.
Yeah.
Player versus player can get intense. And people have anxiety for it. And I just was hoping that this podcast could help some people who get anxiety and maybe don't talk about it.
Yeah.
To recognize that it's more of a big thing than you'd think of. Both Tiffany and I get it.
Yeah, yeah. And we just want to help, like, at least normalize it a little bit. Because competitive games are competitive, and sometimes being competitive is very stressful, and it can be kind of scary.
It's frustrating, right?
Akino it's
literally
beyond frustrating.
Yeah, Akino literally talks about it in the anime, where she's like, I'm not mad I lost, I'm just frustrated.
Frustrated, yeah.
And like, there was someone at our locals who had like a really big thing upon losing one of the games, and they apologized to me afterwards, and they were like, I'm sorry that I kind of had this salty moment, and you didn't deserve that. And I was like, no, I get it. And in fact, this is going to sound weird, I'm happy you had that salty moment. It didn't affect me, but I can tell that you want to do your best, and that's good.
Yeah. When?
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
I don't know. It makes me feel weird, like, talking about heavy topics like this, but again, I hope that you guys are getting something out of it, and I really hope that I don't know, just let us know in the comment section down below if you struggle with anything, or what kind of methods you've come up with that work for you in terms of addressing certain, like, stressors or, like, issues that you have, because I'm sure, I mean, I would probably find it very helpful. Any advice I can get, I would really appreciate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really hope that you guys continue to play, and that you still find joy in it, and that you put up some really nice boundaries for yourself so that you can continue to enjoy the game, because at the end of the day, a game is supposed to be fun.
And as always,
may you always flip a life burst.
bye guys.
Bye. Subscribe.